And we're live, feeling very mindful and in the moment right now. Today we're going to do something different, something special. On one hand, it's special because it's our first ever session that's being live streamed both on YouTube and Clubhouse at the same time. So viewers or listeners can access it either way. If you want to see us, then you head over to YouTube. You can find us at Sulha, that's Sulha on YouTube, the same name as the club. And I'd recommend coming to watch this because my counterpart Ryan's a very good-looking guy, so you might want to see him in person. And if you want just a smooth audio version, then head over to Clubhouse. And for those on YouTube who want to do audio, you can find the link in the description. So today we're going to talk about Vipassana, which is a Buddhist meditation practice. Now, how does this really connect with what we normally do on Sulha, which is reconciliation between people in conflict and essentially try to make this world a more peaceful one? Well, peace is not just peace agreements between nations. It's also inner peace, right? It's finding peace within oneself. A population that is not in peace with itself probably cannot sustain peace long term, even if nations find peace amongst themselves. So expect on this channel not just conversations between people in conflict like we normally do, but also interesting conversations on things like meditation, mindfulness, psychedelics, and an array of other methods of transcendence. Joining me today, Ryan Daniels, who's a lawyer, advisor to startups, and amateur meditator based in New York. He studied meditation at Stanford while in law school, has spent time on a few retreats, and currently practices metta and Vipassana meditation. He's also a close friend of mine, and it was his idea to have a conversation like this. I just realized I'm doing this live stream in a moving chair, so I need to be mindful of the fact that I'm not moving because it's so easy to get lost in this back and forth. Anyways, Ryan, good to have you here. Our first live stream we've done together, and thanks for coming up with this idea.
It's so good to be here, and it's so cool to hear you do this introduction and see that you are like an expert at speaking on these kinds of forums. This is my first live streamed anything. I'm pretty nervous. I really just wanted to be able to speak with you and hear other people hear the things that I want to hear about your experience. But I feel like I'm on a talk show with a professional host, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what a year of these live streams will do, but thank you.
It's amazing. It's really amazing to see.
You want to start by just giving a little more in-depth background of what Vipassana is?
Yeah, so I want to start by saying in 2016 or 17, we were at Midburn in Israel, which is like the Burning Man of Israel. It's a pretty wacky event. I'd never meditated before. I thought meditation was a very strange chanting practice where you dedicated yourself to Hindu gods, and it was not for me. And Adar sat down with me. He woke me up one morning and he said, "This is like flossing for your brain." And I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. And he was like, "Just let's sit for 2 minutes." And I was like, 2 minutes? 2 minutes of sitting and doing what? And so we sat, and I hated every second of it. And then I opened my eyes and I ran off as fast as I could. And I didn't get it. And we did it again the next day for maybe 2.5 minutes. And that's my introduction to meditation, was actually through you, Adar. You were the first person to sit me down and make me try it out.
Wow.
So it's a very full circle thing. Yes, 100%. So Vipassana is a style of meditation that comes from a traditional Theravada Buddhist practice. Theravada is the lineage of Buddhism that's predominantly practiced in Sri Lanka and Myanmar and Thailand. And it's pretty popular in the West because it's been reformulated as mindfulness and the mindfulness movement. So a lot of Western psychologists and practitioners went to India and went to Thailand and Myanmar in the 60s and 70s and learned this practice and brought it back. And what it fundamentally teaches is being aware of what you're doing while you're doing it, constantly, while you're meditating, and that strengthens the muscle of focus. But throughout your whole day, you know what you're doing. And Vipassana is a Pali word. Pali is the language that Buddha wrote his texts, and it means clear seeing. It's translated to insight. And so it's also called insight meditation. And it's called this because when you begin to focus very clearly on what you're experiencing as you're experiencing it, you begin to notice certain things about how the mind works that you ordinarily would never pick up on when you're kind of just going about your day-to-day life. And so we'll talk more about your retreat experience, but the practical sort of instructions are usually just different ways of tuning into what's going on. And you're just watching really closely. Now I'm breathing in, now I'm breathing out. Now I'm walking, now I'm taking a step. Now I'm thinking about this, now I'm thinking about that. Things you're always doing, but you're not really aware of it. And that's Vipassana. And the idea is the more you practice this, the more you learn what's going on constantly in the background.
Awesome. Awesome explanation.
Okay, so I want to start. So let's just take a step back. Adar and I have been talking about meditation for a long time. I've done a few of these retreats. Adar, we talked a few weeks ago and you said you were doing your first Vipassana retreat. And I was so excited because it's a really, really radical step to do one of these retreats. So these retreats are like several days of silent meditation. I think most people have a friend or two who has done one of these retreats. And it seems really crazy, but you spend time just sitting and maybe walking and just meditating all day. And the idea is it's almost impossible to start to pick up on certain things without removing all other distractions. No phone, no books, not even conversation with anybody. You just have to be silent. It's really hard. And I wanted to just hear all about your experience as you experienced it for the first time in a 4-day silent retreat, which I think is extremely hard, but is accessible. And so instead of just catching up on the phone like we wanted to do, which I wanted to do, I thought let's do this for other people to hear your experience. So if you will, just explain, one, what were the instructions you received? So what was the type of meditation you were doing and what they tell you to do? And then I would really like, as much time as you want to give to this, like a day-to-day, like what, I arrived, I unpacked my bags, like then I ate my last meal, like tell me like because I don't know how they're all different. So I want to hear the whole experience, sparing very few details.
Sure. So first of all, I need to mention that our conversation prior to me going to Vipassana included a little bit more synchronicity than you even mentioned, because you reached out to me to talk to me about an idea of hosting meditation circles for Israelis and Palestinians. And I just happened to tell you that like in 2 days, I'm doing a Vipassana, and it was an awesome synchronicity there. So that's even more full circle to the one we just recognized with the fact that I somehow introduced you to meditation, then you became the expert in meditation and you initiated this whole conversation. So there's a lot of interesting and beautiful synchronicities happening right here.
I want to just append one detail is to say we're both very much not experts. We're just both people who do a little meditation. I've done some retreats, but I am like, just that we should be more, I don't think that the only way that we're qualified to talk right now is as lay people who are just doing this a little bit. So anybody else with a 5-minute a day, 10-minute a day meditation practice should be able to relate to us more than some amazing speakers who have been doing this for decades. Fair enough?
Fair. Okay. Fair. So a little bit about the day-to-day. I get there at noon. That's when they told us to arrive. I'm greeted by this friendly woman, which to me was like a relief, because when I read the instructions about what the day's like, it sounded so strict that I was worried it was gonna be like, I don't know, I just was scared I'm gonna show up and it's gonna be like military vibes. But I got this nice warm welcome. I was shown to my room. It was a nice, simple, cozy room. I was told to unpack and put on my white clothing. You're meant to wear all white. That's why I'm doing white now. And maybe this will be the new thing for my live streams. I kind of like the way I look in white. But
you look good.
So I go, I get dressed, and then she says, okay, we're still waiting for some other guests, some other participants, walk around the grounds, talk to some people, while we wait. So I explored a little bit. It's a cute little place in a town by the Kinneret, by Tveria, which is the Sea of Galilee. And not so big, probably like 2 acres in size. There's like a nice garden area, a nice practice area, a kitchen, and eating space. So I checked out the space and then played with some cats and then introduced myself to some of the people who were already waiting. I knew this were to be one of my only opportunities to actually get to speak to the people there, because I knew ahead of time that there's no speaking. So we chatted a little bit, and eventually everybody came, everybody being a total of 7 people. Once everyone was here, they called us for lunch. That was the only lunch until the last lunch where we could sit and talk. So we really took advantage of I think we were all a little anxious and nervous, so we really took advantage of our time together to get to know each other and speak about what we're looking forward to, what we're worried about. And I already started eating mindfully, because I eat too fast, and it's something I've tried to working on for years, but it's like once the food's there, I just go for it, It's been one of the hardest bad habits that I haven't been able to get control of. And I don't think it's not like I eat like a wild animal, but faster than what I know is healthy. We have 30 minutes to eat. We finish lunch, and then the head of this center comes out and calls us over to the meditation space. Most of it's outdoors, so it's this outdoor section under a hut. We sit. She explains to us a little bit about what we're doing, and then she calls out the monk. Our instructor is a Buddhist monk. His name is Ofer, so he's Israeli. Pra Ofer, which I guess pra means, what does pra mean? Pra.
I don't know. I haven't heard that title before.
It means either monk, maybe it means monk. So that's how we had to refer to him. He comes out, and he teaches us 3 different routines. Now I can't really show the routines, but one is done when you're on your knees and you slowly do the motions, turning, lifting, touching. You know what I'm talking about, Ryan? Does this ring a bell?
No, I haven't practiced this. There's
really? Okay.
Mention that there's several ways. I'll just quickly. Vipassana just says, like I mentioned, know what you're doing while you're doing it. When you're walking, you know you're walking. When you're breathing, you know you're breathing. And there are several monks in different traditions. There's a Thai tradition and there's 2 Burmese traditions that have interpreted these very broad instructions in very different ways. And so one says you only focus on your breath. One says you also focus on your thoughts. One says you focus on moving this way and that way. And they're all getting the same thing. But what you've done is something I've never done. So this is why I'm so curious.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so it's a little process you go through where you move your hand from here to here to here, but you say every step, moving, touching, lowering, touching, bending. And I can't show the whole thing because, someone in the comments, Raja, wrote the Thai hand meditation. So this is a Thai, the place I went to is a Thai Buddhist place. So I think you're onto something, right. Raja.
As I understand, the place you practice is Vipassana from the Thai forest tradition. This is, people might know Ajahn Chah, but I've practiced more from the Burmese tradition, and they're both, the most sort of well-known ones. So, but I don't know much about this. So
okay, interesting. So that's cool to see that there's different methods, because this is the first exercise that you do. So he showed us that. The next one is a walking meditation. And I couldn't demonstrate the whole thing because I need to be on my knees, but that's the gist of it. The next one is a walking meditation where you walk back and forth in a 5-foot line and turn. But every step you take, left goes thus, right goes thus, left goes thus, right goes thus. And then you hit the end of the 5 feet, you go stopping, turning, standing, left goes thus, right goes thus. The next day it's advanced into lifting, pudding, and the day after that it's lifting, forwarding, pudding. That's the motion you do with your foot. And then on the 4th day was heel up, lifting, forwarding, pudding. So the idea is to very mindfully take every single step and label everything you're doing. It's to get you in the habit.
You're making mental notes.
Well, they say if you're with other people around, do it in your head. If you're alone, say it out loud. But the whole idea is to get in the habit of labeling everything you do, to be aware of your actions. So that was the second one. And the third one is just a sitting meditation, pretty standard sitting, legs crossed and just breathing. And the mantra was, when you inhale, you say rising. When you exhale, you say falling. Right? I mean, you need to say it in your head because you can't speak when you're breathing. But so it's those three. Now, up until this point, I didn't understand if we're doing group sessions, workshops. I didn't know what it would be, but he showed us these three and he said, that's it. Tomorrow we're going to have one-on-one conversations. Until then, practice these three practices, take a 20-minute break and go back to them.
How long was each?
So the first practice, you do it 3 times. You do the routine 3 times. The second you do for 10 minutes of walking, and then 10 minutes of sitting. Each day that time got longer, but at least the first day was 25 minutes of practice, 20 minutes of break. And then I'm like, okay, so this is what we're here to do. Just it's all, we're on our own, no group sessions. It's just do it, self-motivation. And then I understood what you were talking about when you told me before going in that I should really push myself because I'll get more out of it. Because at that point I understood that it's really up to me how much I want to give it. Because, I could take an hour break if I wanted to. No one would say anything to me. So I spent the rest of the day doing it pretty much on 20-minute breaks the whole time. Pretty much. Towards the end of the day, I was already getting tired, and I took a 40-minute break. I was just going with the flow. 10 p.m. is bedtime. And you don't eat after lunch. Lunch is the last meal of the day. 11:30 p.m. last meal of the day. I was already in bed by 9 because I was bored out of my mind. How many hours could you do that? Maybe 9:30 on the first night. Look, bedtime is 10 p.m. Wake up is 4 a.m. So if you're gonna sleep exactly the times they give you, you're getting 6 hours. But it takes time to fall asleep. Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night. So I wanted to be sleeping by 10. And here's the thing: I haven't been in bed before 10 since probably elementary school. If I'm going to be real, that was new. And I was so looking forward to bed. It's just one of the best ways to shut down your mind and pass time. Because keep in mind, no speaking, no reading, no writing, no music. There's just nothing. It's just you and yourself and the routines you have. I got in bed at 9:30 and then I woke up an hour later, and it's because I'm used to going to bed. I have a bad habit of going to bed at 2, 3 a.m., sometimes even 4. I guess it's still a bad habit from when I was a party promoter in Tel Aviv. I guess I never snapped out of that lifestyle, but my body wasn't used to sleeping at those hours. I'm wide awake at 12. So there I am, just lying in bed 3 hours. And normally when I have trouble sleeping, I'll put on relaxing music, a podcast. Nope, none of that. Just me and my thoughts, all alone. Eventually I fall asleep. Just a few hours later, the gong, ding, 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 4 a.m. comes along. Woo!
You love that gong at this point, don't you?
I love that gong. I'm like, okay, here's the start to an 18-hour day. So the idea is to do practices from 4 a.m. until breakfast, which is at 6:30. And then you finish breakfast at 7, and then from 7 to 11:30 more practices, and then from 12 to 10 p.m. more practices. So that's really what it was. And they tell you not to sleep during the day.
Yeah.
I think I did take a little nap after breakfast. I did my practices until breakfast, ate breakfast, took a little nap because I only slept 3 hours. After breakfast, the monk had one-on-one conversations with us. He asked us to see the routines we're doing, and then he added a step to the walking, and he told me instead of doing 10 minutes and 10 minutes to do 15 minutes and 15 minutes. So now we're doing 35 minutes of practices, 20 minutes break. And I've never been great at self-motivation. It's just, I kind of just, I don't want to say this about myself, but I'm a little bit of a slacker. At least in school I was, and
I love saying that about
a little bit. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a slacker. So here I am, and it's 20-minute break. I'm doing 40-minute breaks, 1 hour breaks. I didn't view it as that bad, because for me, it wasn't only about the practices, it's about getting very comfortable sitting there without any phone. You know, one of the main reasons I went into this was to break my screen habits. I'm doing like probably 12 to 14 hours of screen time a day, work plus leisure. It just adds up. It's the first thing I do in the morning. So to me, just sitting on a bench, looking at the cats, there were a lot of cats there. You know, to me, that was very much part of the practice. So I didn't really consider it to be slacking that much. It was me getting comfortable without sitting, doing nothing without touching my phone. And I guess since we're on the topic of phones, you know, this is, I think, the most common addiction today is screen. Most people, I think the first thing they do in the morning is take their phone and look at it. Yeah. I've known for years now that if you could start your day without touching your phone, your day is going to be better. I only succeed in doing that probably a few dozen times a year at most. But it's not only healthy because starting your day in a place of calm rather than all the drama and action happening on social media. It's a better way to start your day. Start it in like a peaceful state. That's going to set the tune for the rest of your day. But in addition to that, it's also starting your day with delaying gratification, which is very important.
That's right.
Delaying gratification is one of the single most important habits any human can develop. And if you can resist something you really want to do first thing in the morning and instead exercise, yoga, meditation, whatever it may be, perhaps all three, which I've been doing since the retreat, I mean, you're just going to be so much better off because of it. So that was really one of the main reasons I went in to get a digital detox. Yeah.
So we'll come back to self-control because I have some more questions about that, if you want to call it that. But so day 2, you're doing 35 minutes a day, 25 on, 20 minutes break, just repeated on your own, wherever you want. There's a meditation hall, you can do it outside, but you're just doing it by yourself all day. And then okay, and then take us to night 2. Like, so then how are we doing? Are you feeling?
Yeah, so
and what you're feeling and what?
Right.
Like,
so yes, a few things about what I was feeling. So I did find it easier to see every step I was taking. I was more mindful than I've ever been, even the first night. Those practices really work. I hit new levels of mindfulness.
What do you mean
by the second night? First of all, when I've done meditation for years, not daily, but I try to do it as much as possible. And I could get 10 seconds without a single thought, maybe 15. I think I got close to 1 full minute with 0 thoughts, which is like smashing my
thoughts. You were just noting your feet, you were noting your walking, and so the thoughts weren't coming up as much because you were so focused on the other phenomena.
So this was in the sitting one, the sitting with my eyes closed. I was able to get a close to a full minute, just inhale, exhale, without a single thought entering my mind.
Distraction.
I got it. Exactly. Which, I mean, that's wild. You know, achieving that to me was a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
And and every second without a thought, there's like your level of like the level of bliss intensifies. It's interesting how no thought isn't neutral. It's positive. I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Like, why is no thought neutral? If you get to a place, and I could do this also when staring at something beautiful, I could just experience the scenery. But when you're just experiencing something beautiful, or when you're in a place where you have no thoughts in your mind and you're just experiencing what's around you, the feeling you have is not a neutral feeling. It's a positive feeling. You're actually happy. So why is absence of thought create happiness and not just a neutral feeling?
It's a good.
Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah, we'll do this tangent because then I really do want to continue hearing about your experience. But quickly, in my experience, you're actually never really absent of thought. It's a bit of an illusion that you're absent of thought, but the mind, I heard this quote I really like, that the heart pumps blood, the lungs breathe, the brain thinks. The brain is like just oozing thoughts constantly. And these moments where you think you're not thinking, you're thinking, because you're thinking I'm not thinking. I mean, it's like kind of meta, but really you're always thinking. And so when you're lost in a beautiful movie or a song or a piece of artwork, you're really thinking, oh my God, this is beautiful. And like this, I'm feeling emotions. But you're not caught up because you're present. You're in the moment, but you're still thinking. I mean, I think a lot of the pain that we attribute to wandering mind is that you're thinking somewhere in the future or somewhere in the past. You're not focusing on what's going on right now. And even when you're in these deep, deep concentrated meditative states, you're really focused and you're thinking about the breath coming in, the breath coming out, and the breath coming in, the breath coming out, but you're not wandering. You're really, really noticing what's there. The thoughts are still coming because you're still processing what's happening, but you're not like thinking, oh, this is a warm sense of air, and this is and that reminds me of when I was a kid and I was breathing and I smelled that smell. Like you're there. You're thinking. And so there's an illusion, I believe, for a lot of early meditators who think, I'm really bad at this because I can't stop thinking. And actually, you're never going to stop thinking. You can just focus your thoughts on a single direction. And I think the bliss you feel on these retreats is pretty much a flow state. I mean, a flow state, and there's like a few books that are interesting that about this, is the point at which your level of expertise meets a level of commensurate challenge, where it's not too hard that you're overwhelmed, and it's not too easy that you're bored, but it's like right on. And so if you've ever been like writing something and you're just lost and you don't even know that you're thinking, you're just lost. I think on these retreats, you remove all this stimulation from your life and you get really focused on your breath and you get lost in it. It just meets where you are. That's I don't know if I'm right, but this is something I've definitely thought about. And it is a very blissful, pleasant experience to just be one pointed attention. And there's many, many books written about this, and like old meditative monks from 1,000 years ago have written about this.
So I guess the way I describe thought, when I say thought, it's like an actual thought of something rather than experiencing a feeling. So I guess it's like a different layer of thought. One is like the thinking of the present feels very different of thinking of something that is just in your mind, whether it's the past, the future, or some idea. Those create a very different feeling.
Wandering mind. Yeah, when your mind is wandering and there's chatter, there's mental chatter, and you can reduce mental chatter to almost zero, especially on retreats, and that feels good. But thoughts will come up, and sometimes you realize, especially on retreat, oh, I just had I haven't thought about something in a few seconds. That's weird. And you see it, you come right back to the breath. And that's a really unusual experience that I've only really had on retreat, where you just, thoughts come and you're like, I don't need to think about this childhood memory right now. I'm just going to come right back. Rather than getting carried away.
Yeah.
Okay, so day 2.
Yeah, so another thing I noticed, I was able to notice what kind of thoughts I'm having, because, I'm always, I very much do have a wandering mind, and I don't view it as inherently bad. I really like my thought process. I like what I think about, the ideas I'm thinking about, but being mindful of it got me to understand exactly how much of what I'm thinking of is positive or productive, and how much of it is either just like random, unnecessary thought or actually negative. Yeah. So I think like a third of my thoughts can be categorized as like either one of the 7 deadly sins, or like a concern about the future, or like some like regret about the past. 1/3 are one of those things. Another third are just like completely random, like weird, unnecessary, but maybe they have some function, and that they're there. And then a third are like positive. They're ideas. They're planning for the future, feeling hopeful, inspiration. And it was my first time actually being able to see how much of my thought is being utilized for positive. Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing insight. And this is exactly what people mean when they call it insight meditation, is to spend some time in silence, realizing, oh, this is how my mind's working. I spend 2/3 of my time doing kind of unproductive, if you want to call it thought. That's just how it goes. That's the nature of the mind. And I spend 1/3 doing types of thinking that's actually pretty useful and pretty productive and benefits me in some way. And maybe after this, I can start to be aware of when I'm having these unproductive thoughts and kind of just focus my attention away. Like, these are things you could never ordinarily really figure out in your day-to-day unless you just stop distracting yourself with all the
Right.
things going on. It's an amazing insight to have. It's a really, really powerful insight. I'm not saying you're going to just stop doing all those unproductive thoughts all of a sudden, but you'll notice them now. You'll never not notice
first
them.
step.
Now.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the first step. Yeah. So that was step one. I mean, that was like an important insight I had.
So tell me
Another
about
thing I noticed.
Wait, I want to get to your insights after, but tell me about days 3 and 4.
Well, so I guess I'll finish day 2 because I didn't really speak about the emotions I was feeling.
Fair enough.
Towards the end of day 2, I was actually miserable. I was like I was not in a good state. It's not like I actually thought that I would quit, because I know that when I go into something that I finish it. I mean, I had similar experiences in the Army where I went to very difficult tryouts for certain units, and some of the hardest things I've ever experienced, and I never quit. So it wasn't really, I knew I wouldn't quit, but wanting to quit was very, very strong. And on this, towards the end of the second night, I really wanted, I'm like, I want to get out of here. Very similar to what I had, in those, some Army tryouts or Army training. It was a level of emotional difficulty, not physical, obviously, but the emotional difficulty that my hardest moments in the Army, that's what I was feeling on the second night of the Vipassana.
And what's that like?
Where I was.
Go on.
Well, I started resenting the exercises. I'm like, fuck this. Like, I hate these exercises. Like, what a stupid trio. Like, I felt myself getting mad at them.
Yeah.
So I took like a pretty long break, probably a few hours where I didn't do any. And it was just me sitting there, like, not so happy. And I said, let me try to just feel these emotions and let them pass, which I'm generally good at. I feel like I have a pretty good handle of my emotions, but this one was actually so strong felt that it was hard for me to just let pass. Like, I really felt it deeply for many hours. I even remember, like, my mom dropped me off at the Vipassana the day of, and she was sick. She had a cough, and on the second night, I'm like, I hope she got me sick and I wake up tomorrow sick and I could just leave her. Like, these are the thoughts that are going through my head.
Yeah.
9
And
p.m.
do you think
I'm in bed.
you think this is because you're bored and you're restless and you're like not really understanding what you're doing anymore? Like, you've just had too much time to get negative. Like, where did you think this came from?
I mean,
and did you anticipate feeling this way and you were like, I'm going to get through it? Or was this kind of, wow, this is harder than I thought?
No, I was shocked. I was shocked at how hard it was. I didn't think I would get to that difficult of a place. And I still don't know what to quite attribute it to, because it's not like I'm never alone with my thoughts, right? I do meditation, I go to bed, I'm with my own thoughts. Like, I spend at least a few hours every day where it's just me and myself. But I guess when it's like, once you hit a certain amount of time, I don't know why it gets so difficult. I'm not quite sure, but it got very, very hard. And it's also hard because you're tired, and I'm really trying not to fall asleep because I want to have a good night's sleep at night. Like, it's all these things playing into each other. So the day before, I got in bed by 9:30. Second, I was in bed by 9. Because I realized they don't hit the gong at 10. I thought there'd be a nighttime gong that would wake me up. So I'm like, oh, there's no nighttime gong. Let me get to bed a little earlier. Second night, same thing. I fell asleep for like an hour, woke up wide awake, 2 hours just lying there. And that's some of the hard, that's one of the darkest moments, because you're so excited to just get a good night's sleep. It's not going to be a good night's sleep. You're going to get max 6 hours. But there I am, just lying there all by myself. Can't escape. I can't read. I can't write. No music. No cell phone. Yeah. So that was a tough few hours. I see Jordan in the comments writing digital withdrawal. I actually think, part of my state was a dopamine withdrawal. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. Yeah, I said I don't know what to attribute it to, but that was actually my thought at the time, that I'm having dopamine withdrawals. I'm so used to just like the lights and the flashing and notifications and this and music and eating, whatever, all that. But now I have none of it. So yeah, I think I was having dopamine withdrawals.
This is very, we talked about this, but this is very, very, very common. Very common. And you said I spend a few hours alone each day. I'm surprised it was this hard to just rip out all the stimulation that we take for granted. And I don't just mean using your phone. When you're in your apartment sitting alone with your thoughts, like how alone are you really, right? Like you probably might be listening to music, or maybe you were just reading a book. You have books around you.
Right.
You have things you can look at.
Mm-hmm.
Like the metaphor people always use is it's like you have this really choppy water, and that's your mind. And on these retreats, it stills after a few days, and you can finally see the bottom, right? All the mud starts settling, and you can finally see the bottom of the water. But that process of stilling things and removing all that weather from it can be really, really painful. It's very common.
Yeah.
Sleep is a very difficult thing because you've been sitting there with no stimulation all day. And normally you go from your day of like running from thing to thing to thing, and it's giving you dopamine, it's giving you excitement, it's giving you energy, and then it goes away and you just get tired. Like you just fall asleep naturally because all that excitement is no longer there in your room with you, and you can just sleep. But you've been going through an entire day in a kind of sleeping setting with just sitting there doing nothing, and your body doesn't know what to make of it. Like, why should I sleep now? I've been bored all day. Like, so it's very common, but it's very hard.
So yeah, that it's interesting because withdrawals generally, if it's from substances, it doesn't kick in right away. It takes sometimes days to kick in. So even if you have 2 hours by yourself before you go to bed, it's not enough for it to kick in. And then the first thing we generally do when we wake up is grab the phone, and probably our inclination to grab the phone is so strong because we're actually craving that dopamine after a full night of not having it. So I was severe dopamine withdrawals, you could say. Third day, more of the same. The time of the practices got extended to 20 minutes. So now I'm doing 45 minutes. The 5 minutes is the first practice. The time stayed the same. It was just doing the process 3 times. So 5 minutes around, estimate, and then 20. So 45 minutes of practices, 20 minutes break. And again, I was doing it on my own pace. I was doing it every 20 minutes, sometimes taking longer breaks. And it's amazing. So some more insights I had on the third day. And here's the thing, the mornings were easier for me. I wasn't in such a hard place in the morning. Like I was more excited to get back into the practices. It was towards the evenings where I really started feeling it. But you have nothing to really look forward to. So it's interesting how the simple things really start to excite you. It was all about the cups of tea. Yeah. First of all, there's the meals, right?
Meals are amazing.
Yeah. Breakfast and lunch. And it's pretty wild that you don't eat from noon until 10 p.m., which is so different than what we're used to. I actually didn't feel hungry at night. Like I was surprised how I didn't even crave the food. They give you like one piece of chocolate or a thing of yogurt. I don't really eat much dairy. So I was just doing the chocolate, which you're definitely looking forward to that chocolate cube. Like that's like the highlight of the day. But also my cups of tea, like I'd be thinking, okay, next I'm going to mix mint and sage, little honey, and that's going to be my next cup. And after that, I'm just going to do Shiba with nothing because it's good for digestion. Like you're meant to try to be mindful, but you find yourself planning like 3 cups of tea forward because that's the only thing you have to get excited for. All about the tea. I've never enjoyed tea more in my life.
It's amazing to realize. It's an insight that I think I had maybe my first retreat is. This is what we do. We're always looking forward to that next thing, like planning, like just getting excited about like if you take everything away, we will find something fucking ridiculous to get excited about because it might just be a cup of tea. But that's what our minds are doing. We're anticipating, we're excited for, we're sort of craving, right? And in your daily life, it's so like I was really excited for this talk. I was looking forward to this talk all weekend and thinking about it and excited and worked up. This is right, but on a retreat, you're like, all right, I guess it's the tea. But it is an interesting insight that the mind is really anticipatory and really excited for things that are in the future. And oftentimes those things don't really give as much pleasure as you hope they will, right? But you expect them to. They give you, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, in those moments, the tea really, I would say I got pleasure out of them. I guess it would be like, I don't know. I don't want to relate it too much to drugs, but let's say you're having like withdrawals. Let's say you're having like really bad opiate withdrawals, and it's like you get just like a 5 milligram Percocet. It's not going to make, you're not going to, you're not going to get high. It's not like, you're not going to get high, but it's like, yes, just yeah, exactly. So I think that's a similar thing. Another interesting realization I had was how, can you hear me well? I'm getting like a signal that my connection's a little bit iffy. Fairly good. Okay.
It just faded a bit, but now it's okay.
Cool. Yeah, it looks like it's back. That's weird. When I was thinking of my job, like the work I do, the moderating, the discussions, it all seemed very stressful when I was thinking about it. I'm like, damn, my job is stressful as hell. When I'm in this world doing my job, I don't feel super stressed about it. I get like a tiny bit of anxiety before every live stream. That's probably just like, I don't know if that will ever go away. I'm not really an anxious person, but I get a tiny bit before every live stream. But aside from that, it's not like I consider the work I do to be stressful. But when I was viewing it from that perspective, it actually seemed very stressful. So it's possible I'm taking on more stress than I even realize. I'm good at like, like dealing with it, or just my perspective in that state is very warped. I'm not quite sure. Now that I'm back, I don't view it as stressful, but I definitely did when I was there. I'm like, damn, I have a stressful job. Like, I don't know if I want to go back and do that. Like the people fighting, the arguing, the pain, the drama, there's just a lot you take on. So it got me to be more aware of like what I am taking on by doing what I do. And I've always known that doing something in the public sphere, especially when you're working with people in conflict, you are taking on people's pain. You are the target to different attacks and hate. So I've known this for many years, that to do anything in public is generally going to be more stressful than if you're doing like a simpler behind the scenes job. But that idea became so much clearer when I was in the Vipassana, looking back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense that your perspective shifts. Someone told me never make a big life decision after Burning Man, and I think the same thing is true for Vipassana. Like, give it a little time to.
Interesting.
So then, what was the fourth day like? Or actually, let's go. So the third day. What was the end of the third day and the fourth day like?
So because I was feeling a little bit better the third day, and also I was seeing that the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, exactly. I thought the third night would actually be easier, but again, third night I went back into that like very difficult place where I'm like, oh, I hate this. It's not. Don't take this the wrong way. I didn't have thoughts of suicide by any means, but I remember having the thought, it wouldn't surprise me if I discovered that some people commit suicide during Vipassana. Right? Like that, like that's what I'm like, okay, like some people might not make it through this shit. Again, I didn't contemplate by any means, right? It wasn't contemplation, but like it was so like the emotional drain was so hard that I'm like, damn, like this is brutal. Again, third night. I even left the campus. They tell you not to leave. I took a little walk in the neighborhood just to change up the scenery, because you just want to see something new. So you're like sitting on different benches, different perspectives, just to see different sides. But I decided to take a little walk. I found a park. And they have one of those little, like, those rocking, it's like a horse for kids. You sit on it, it's on a spring. So I got on that and did a little rocking.
A rocking horse meditation.
That felt good. Yeah.
This is your tea for the day.
Well, that was after like 4 cups already, and I don't drink caffeine, so it's all no caffeine tea, which made it harder to stay awake, I imagine, but
For sure.
felt good. And then I was already in bed by like at 8:30. Just a little bit earlier
every night. Yeah.
progressive. Fourth day, I wake up, and then I already, oh, actually, again, I did not sleep on the fourth night. I woke up, and this time I was awake the longest, literally like 2.5 hours, just lying in bed on the final night, and I felt like this burning anger inside me. Yeah. And it's interesting. The thing with the anger is when I was young, I was very angry. As I got older, it really disappeared. It's not that I'm never angry, but I'd say it's one of my lowest felt negative emotions. I very much understand that anger not only is poison that we hold within us, but we never make good decisions when we're angry. But when I was awake at night on the third night, I just felt this like burning anger inside of me. And it was very interesting to observe because I haven't felt that in many years. And I was thinking about certain people in my life that I guess I don't want to say I'm upset with, but am in a little bit of, let's call it upset with, and I was feeling anger towards them. And what's interesting is when I'm in a calm state, I don't feel anger towards them. I actually feel compassion. I feel upset, but I feel compassion towards them. But in that state, I was feeling very angry towards them. And I stopped myself and said, wait a minute, I'm not angry at these people. I'm just angry. And I'm expressing that towards them. And it strengthened, I think, a fairly well-known notion, but we often take out our emotions on other people. So, nice. If you're angry, you could be angry at anything. You're going to take it out on other people. You should try to think of your relationships and your life and challenges you have from a place of calm. Think about them when you're meditating and see how you feel about them. And that will give you a more positive outlook on life. Don't look at things, don't judge situations, don't make decisions when you're angry, making them from a place of calm. Again, this isn't a revelation I had, but it's something I've been quite aware of for some time now, but I very much understood it on that third and final night. On the fourth day, I woke up. It was a half day. We leave at 1 p.m. They upped the time again, so we're now doing 55 minutes. And I really gave it my all for that last push. Really gave it my all. We had a little final ceremony where we speak, and then we all had lunch together, and it was fun getting to share our experiences with one another. What I discovered after speaking with everyone is everyone was struggling as much as me, if not more. I didn't know if I was unique because people aren't generally showing how much they're struggling. And people even said, wow, you seemed so calm the whole time. Like, I'm so shocked to hear that you were struggling. Like, I was really looking at you as like in nirvana. I'm like, and here's the thing, like I've been talking about the difficulty. I had some of the highest moments I've had in understanding and meditation and mindfulness. Like there was so much beauty in it, but when the darkness, when you're there, kind of drowns it out. It's kind of hard to feel, but it definitely wasn't all negative. But it was the highs. Well, meditating and really feeling states of euphoria, getting close to a minute without a single thought, really getting to observe every step I take, being more aware than ever of my emotions, of my thoughts. So, life's not meant to be easy. Like talking about I guess I just want to state that just because something's hard doesn't mean it's bad, right? Just because it was one of the single hardest moments of my life, that's also what makes it one of the single most meaningful moments of my life. And I want people to know that it's not just me complaining about Vipassana. I talk about how hard it is also what makes it so unique and so special, and so positively overwhelming to finish and overcome. The conversations with the people, though, was very reassuring to see that it wasn't just me, that everyone was struggling. Everyone else was also in bed by like 8:30 on the final night, which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
What I found interesting was most people there struggled in the mornings more than in the evenings. So I don't know why I was unique in that regard.
For what it's worth, I always find on retreat that my mental strength really wanes throughout the day. It starts off really strong, and just by the evening, I'm always going these circles of like, this is bullshit. This sucks. What am I doing? And on my second retreat, I like was saying like, this is coming. Like, it's happening. It's 6 p.m. It's coming. Just let it happen and go to bed, and you'll be better tomorrow. And every day, like, it's the same thing. Like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., I was like, you're gonna just hate this now. So it's coming. Go to bed. You'll be better in the morning. And so I don't think that's that uncommon. I think you do kind of, restore and rest a little bit while you sleep, and you feel, for us, maybe not for everybody.
Right. It's interesting what it says about a person if it's easier for them in the morning compared to at night. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
If there's a way to identify, because I'm more of an evening person. But maybe that's when I'm generally get most of my dopamine in the evening, right? So it's maybe interesting.
I don't know.
Yeah, unclear.
But that's not unusual, and it's not unusual also, and it's a great insight that I had was, your mental states just fluctuate throughout the day, right? Like we have this. I don't know. I have this illusion that I'm just me. I'm Ryan. I think, but like in every hour you're feeling a little different, and then certainly in the morning, the evening you're feeling different, and like that state of anger that you had in the middle of the night, like you're not the same Adar you were when you went to bed and when you woke up that morning. You were a fundamentally different person with different thought processes and desires and like every way you perceive the world was completely different. This is one of the main insights is impermanence, like the changing nature, right? There's so I wanted to say to your point about you knew for a long time that being angry made you feel differently and experience the world differently, but to experience it in a concentrated way on retreat, what you call experiential education, experiential learning, that's the point of these retreats. Like I've read countless books explaining the process of nirvana, like not in an abstract way, and like here's how it feels, here's this. And like, it doesn't mean anything until you experience these things for yourself, which by the way, that's like, maybe monks who have been practicing for 50 years will get to, but like all the steps between here and there mean nothing in a book, really. I mean, it's all about experiencing them. So it's cool you got to have that insight. Like I knew this, but now I really know it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So, you've done 2 14-day Vipassanas, right?
No, the first was 10, the second was 8, so not that long.
Okay. So I guess 2 questions. You already mentioned to me that you told me this before going in, you said the first 4 days are the hardest. So it seems like I just got to experience the hardest parts. I never got to see that ease up. So I will do it a longer one. Like I'll do a 10-day, maybe a 14-day, we'll see, but I'm definitely open to doing it again. How much easier does it get after the 4th day, and how much easier was the second one than the first one?
Yeah, like it gets easier. Like that digital detox we talked about before, I think, and it's not just digital, it's all stimulation that you're losing. I think your mind has remarkable ability to just adapt and adjust, and you get really used to it. So like by the 5th day, you're always like, this sucks. I want to go home. Like on all my retreats every day, there's going to have moments of that. But I think you begin, especially in the second retreat, to learn, no, there's beauty. There's a reason, like you said, like it was really hard, but there's meaning here. In the second retreat, every time I had a hard moment, I thought, no, but I remember why I'm doing this, because the last one, I got all this benefit from it, and it changed my meditation practice dramatically for the whole year since my first retreat. So every time it was hard, it was easy to just make those thoughts go away. So I was like, I knew how to respond to them. It was almost therapeutic, like you're responding to these automatic thoughts. And I'd say after the 4th day, I stopped being that tired throughout the day. Like I couldn't stay awake for the life of me. On my retreats, it was normally hour-long sits. So it was an hour sitting or an hour walking, and then maybe a 10-minute break, and then doing it again all day. So it was, but sometimes it was just hour, like wake till sleep. And it's really hard to stay awake sitting for an hour. Like it's like ridiculously hard.
And your back hurts too.
Everything hurts. Right. It's just painful, like physically.
My back got so much stronger in those meditations. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like your body adjusts. Like your body really and so on the 5th day, you start becoming, you stop falling asleep, which is a really nice thing, because you start becoming stimulated by the meditation. Like, if that makes sense. You're used to like reading a book or checking your phone, but actually an hour of sitting, there's so much going on to watch, you start to notice it and you're really awake and concentrated. That made it a lot easier. I've entered, interesting states of bliss and lightness that I would have thought you have to like take some chemicals to experience. I mean, it was really unusual.
Right.
I've also, to be fair, on my first retreat on the 9th day, was one of the most physically and mentally excruciating experiences of my life. Like, I was in a complete panic attack for like 12 hours. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I was nauseous, I was sweating, I could barely breathe. I thought I had to go to the hospital. It was really tough. That was on the 9th day. And if it wasn't for the retreat ending the next day, I don't know what I would have done. Like, it was so like, there are ups and downs. And so I wouldn't say like, just do it again, it'll be easy. There's a Do you have a line?
I'm at my mom's house and she does the after work. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, who still has those? How nice is this Vipassana? This Vipassana.
Yeah, it's close. By the way, we didn't do all white on our retreat. So I don't know if anybody's listening.
Oh, interesting.
It was less like, I like these retreats because I find them very secular and there's no culty aspect. Like, we didn't do any bowing or dedication. It was very much sit, do the practice, whatever religion you are, wherever you come from, we're open to anything. Don't dress a certain way, don't pray a certain way, whatever. It's just sitting and watching.
So that was something I noticed. So first of all, I actually, before going to Vipassana, I didn't realize it was Buddhist. I knew it was Eastern, but I didn't know if it was like from the Hindu tradition. Yeah. I wasn't sure, but what I really liked about it is there's no metaphysics, pseudoscience, belief. Yeah. It's just a set of practices that are meant to achieve a certain result. And what that does is it makes it accessible to people who, you could be a Hasidic Jew and do this, right? You could be an atheist and do this. It's really accessible to all people. But on the topic of accessibility, and this is really something that, I personally focus on, is how to make activism accessible, how to make ideas accessible. That's very much what we're doing at Sulha. We want to make the concept of being an agent for change for everybody. Anyone can do it. So Vipassana, because it's so challenging, it's not the most accessible for everybody. Like, everybody could do it if they set their minds to, right? But not everybody is going to put themselves through something so challenging. I wonder, have you thought of ways to achieve similar results of mindfulness, presence, without torturing yourself?
I mean, I don't want to concede it's torture, but it is really really hard.
I'm being a negative Nancy.
No, but you're right. You're totally right, and it's typical. Like, after my first retreat, I was terrified to do a second one, and the second one was so much easier. It made sense, and I think that was because I sit for a good amount of time every day to meditate, and you get better slowly during your day-to-day, just in your day to life, and then the retreats are like this hyper intense environment. I mean, it's like any other training you do, like if you're an athlete, or if you're casually going to the gym for 30 minutes a day, that's great. And if you do a week-long like boot camp, you're going to come out of it like learning how to push yourself in brand new ways. And that's literally what this is. So it's different in quality, but it's the same idea, right? It's the same thing you're doing. If you sit for 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, anybody can meditate. Everybody can meditate. The conception that you can be good or bad at meditation is a complete, deep-rooted misunderstanding of the practice that is very common. Like, when you think your mind is wandering, you're doing bad, you just note that and continue. That's meditating. So that's like a huge illusion to dispel. And if you, in your daily life, can start to become a bit more mindful, like you said, you can eat more mindfully. You can walk more mindfully when you're walking to the bus or walking to work. When you're having a conversation, you can think, am I talking too much? Am I listening enough? Am I nervous right now? Am I excited? Am I a little scared? Am I a little angry? Am I judgmental? You can start to notice things that you don't notice. Anybody can do it today. A retreat will make you really aware of it. And now, Adar, in your life, you're going to really notice when your mind is having these like weird states of thinking. You're going to notice when you're feeling angry, if that ever happens again, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, on retreat, I noticed that thing. And I'm like, that's a benefit of retreat. But it really is like going to a boot camp versus just practicing daily, and you'll get the same results more slowly, but it's possible for everybody. And I think we're in a moment now. The mindfulness movement is, it's done this whole crazy big thing and it's gotten popular in the West, but I think that's for a good reason. I mean, I think that psychology and even neuroscience is understanding this is one of the most powerful tools we have to change our minds, and anybody can do it. So it's a great question. And I think anybody who's remotely interested should just try it. There's a lot of great apps out there. It's really accessible. You've done a really crazy thing in getting, going to the boot camp of it, and you will benefit immensely from doing that. But it's like, when somebody says, I want to start losing weight, you don't say, okay, like then spend the next 10 days not eating. You say like, all right, go on a walk tomorrow. Like that's it.
I like the way you put that. This is a boot camp that if someone wants to do it, they should. And I recommend doing it. I'll do it again for sure.
I think that after meditating constantly for a few months or years, you'll just start to be like, okay, now I want to do the next thing, because you want to improve. And that's what retreat can be. Right. And that's, I think that you've been meditating for quite some time, and it was always something that you were curious about. But I'm always actually skeptical when people have never meditated ever before and they do a retreat. And there's people who do it. And I think it's probably not the best way to start, actually. It's probably going to just overwhelm you and you'll be confused.
That's a good point. So what I'm trying to do now, I want to see how long I can maintain certain practices. I realize, life is ups and downs. Like it's hard to abstain from bad habits forever. And I've experienced this many times with substance abuse. For example, I'll take like a month break off of weed and say, that's it. I'm never going back to doing it every single day. I'm going to do it once a month. Once a month turns into once a week. Once a week turns into only on the weekend. Eventually you start your weekend on a Wednesday. And the next thing you know, you're doing it every day until you kind of hit rock bottom, and then you are able to do another month. So I've been through this process enough to not be under the illusion that I will never have a phone addiction again, right? I very well may. I'm not setting myself up for it. Who knows? Maybe I'll be able to build habits and I'll never go back to waking up and taking my phone. But I'm okay with knowing that. No, for sure. Like let's be real, let's be real. But I'm just trying to maintain it as long as I can. So some habits I'm working on building while I'm still strong is I start my day. I spent like 30 minutes, I'm self-employed, so I don't need to be anywhere. So I spend like 30 minutes in bed, just chilling by myself. No phone, nothing. Then I go out for a walk, do a little exercise, do the three practices, shower, and then touch my phone.
Nice.
If I could maintain that, then that would be amazing. So that's what I've been doing. Another thing I've been really trying is mindful eating. So hard, but I'm really trying to build the habit of one bite, chew thoroughly. I try to put my fork down after every bite.
Yeah.
Another one, sometimes I notice, when you get really, when you're like deep in the dopamine binges, you could be speaking to someone on the phone and you're simultaneously like scrolling on Twitter or Instagram or something. Like you're not just with that person. And it's not fully respectful to them. B, you're not fully hearing everything they're saying. So when I'm speaking to somebody, I'm just like, I close my computer now, just the call. That's it. So that's another thing that these are actually habits, like not scrolling when I'm speaking to somebody, perhaps is a habit that I could build long-term. I don't want to say that I'll definitely go back, but the hardest one is really waking up and not touching the phone. I mean, that's really hard. Yeah. I feel it every morning. It's like, oh, let's see what I missed while I was sleeping. What's going on? How did the channels grow?
Do you turn your phone off?
I don't turn it off, but I don't sleep with my phone in my room. Like my computer and my phone generally stay outside of my room. This is also true when I'm like even deep in my dopamine binges. Um, Unless on the weekends, like when I go real hard. It's funny how we're talking about this like it's drugs, but it's just the phone. But yeah, on the weekends
Yeah.
I go hard. I'll bring the phone into bed, and this is after like watching YouTube videos for 6 hours until 4 a.m. I'll then bring my phone to bed and do like another 20 minutes of scrolling, put it down, sleep, wake up 6 hours later, take my phone, do another 4 hours. Like that's like that's like rock bottom. And I've been there. It's
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see how long these habits could be maintained. How are you with phone in the morning?
So I do have to jump in a few minutes. But this is a really good thing to close on. Yes. So I keep my phone not in my room. That was a great thing. I wake up and I do about an hour of meditation and some other stuff before I open my phone. And to tell you that I do that every single day without fail wouldn't be true. Like there's some days where I have a job that I need to check my phone first, and then sometimes I'm like, oh well, I'm checking it for my work email, so maybe I'll just read my texts, and then and whatever. And it's a slippery slope. And especially on weekends, I'm like, oh, I'm meeting friends today, so maybe someone texted me, and sometimes there is reason. Sometimes like I've not checked my phone, and like my plans got all screwed up because I waited too late because I was meditating and somebody was like, dude, I've been calling you. So like there are sometimes good reasons to check your phone, but be careful. What I would say is, so for maybe 30 minutes before I go to bed and an hour at least after I wake up, really trying not to open my phone. And I've created crazy ways. Like I turned off all of my notifications, and I have a second old phone that I use just for meditating with my timer, so I don't have to touch my actual phone.
Cool.
I try to only open my iPad so that I can see my work email without getting any text. So it took text off my, like things like that. There's little workarounds that make it a little easier. Something I thought a lot about after this last retreat was building walls around the practices you want to inculcate. So when I say building walls, I mean like turning, like these things, like turning off notifications, keeping your phone not in your bedroom, turning your phone off maybe before you go to sleep, so that when you look at it in the morning, those notifications aren't already there. There's an extra wall around getting those notifications. This is a whole conversation. It's very, very tricky. The other thing I would say is the role of community is the single most useful and valuable thing. And in Buddhist texts going back thousands of years, they say like, you think you're going to just meditate like by yourself and do all these helpful practices without community, you're out of your mind. Like the only thing that's going to keep you doing this is being with like-minded people who will inspire you and encourage you and motivate you, and sometimes even just push you into doing it. And so like find a meditation community and show up like weekly. I found one here in New York. I show up maybe every 2 weeks if I can get away from work, and I sit on these calls for an hour and hear people share their experiences, and they're all very advanced practitioners. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so motivated. Like tomorrow I'm really going to meditate properly. And like, so it just, you can't, and this is what a retreat does. Just, you're like, oh, I'm going to meditate so well right now, but it just will go away. So as much as you can just like find, and I'll Adar, I'll send you some ideas too, because I have ideas for you on how to keep these, but You're in this high point now where you've done this and you're like, you've stripped all the, like all the barnacles off the bottom of the boat and you have this clean surface now. Like how can you keep it clean? And it's a daily process of cleaning it over again. That's another metaphor that people like to use.
I like that.
But you got to capitalize on the momentum and you'll just keep going. And every day it's another, the other thing that I just started doing recently was in the morning, setting an intention, which is, you've been doing that, I'm sure, for a long time, reflecting for a while. And in the evening, before you go to bed, it's called a dedication practice, Tibetan practice of dedicating that intention. You look back and think, how well did I wanted to be more mindful today? Did I really do a good job? Not in a, I'm a bad person, but objectively, like I had one good moment of mindfulness. I had 5 bad moments of mindfulness. I had one good moment and then you think, it was really nice when I did it. And you reflect on the joy, and that inspires you to try again the next day. So there's a million, I'll send you some, but there are a lot of ways to live purposefully. And we are far from the only people trying to do this. I mean, there are much smarter people than us who have gotten up some pretty cool ideas, but it's a struggle. You're totally right. It's a struggle every day, and it's a worthy one. And it's amazing really that you did this. This is a really hard thing. Like the retreats are for a million reasons hard, but I'm glad to see the way you're thinking about this. Like truly.
Hell yeah, man. And thank you so much for initiating the first ever inner peace session we've done on Sulha. Hopefully it's the first of many. So It's really been a
Okay.
pleasure. Did you, completely side note, first of all, anyone who's joining us for the first time, if you made it all the way to the end, we do conversations weekly between Israelis and Palestinians and other people in conflict. Our goal is really to just connect between people, foster greater understanding, and also ultimately help people achieve inner peace with themselves and external peace with their neighbors. That's what we're all about. On a completely unrelated note, do you need to hop off soon, Ryan?
I do, yeah.
Oh, good. So we'll give it like 3 minutes. We could have done this off air, but we might as well just do it on air. Did you see that? It looks like they're going to try to do Burning Man.
Did they announce that yesterday morning?
I don't know if I saw in the.
They had a
with
talk
the
yesterday
potential
morning.
guys. Oh, really? The Burning Man
Yeah,
crew?
I missed it. I was running around all day. Yeah.
Well, no, I saw the guys from Decentral. They said, hey, we're starting to organize. They're not 100% sure they're going to do it, but, we're going to try to put it together. So maybe I'll see you in
Right,
August.
man. We got to start planning. Yeah. I'm going no matter what. So.
I mean, if it's
coming
on,
too.
it's on. I'll be there, Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm so excited.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to sign off. And yes, see you all soon.
Thanks, Adar, so much. This